September 10th, I was leaving work around 4:30, and that tomorrow never came because the building collapsed. And then I began to have like nightmares about what would have happened to me if I was in that building. I thought about how important life is, and it's all about carpe diem because tomorrow might never come. And ultimately, that decision was made when Lehman Brothers went bankrupt because I realized I spent my whole entire 20s creating these toxic securities. And that's when I realized, okay, I need to do something good for the world. Finally, in 2013, I quit my job, drive across the country to get a job in Silicon Valley. My name is Jina Kim, and I worked in Silicon Valley for about 10 years. Prior to that, I was a Java programmer and investment banker at Lehman Brothers. What I focus on is helping startups grow in terms of customer journey and go-to-market strategy, and helping them also with growing their customers. So I started my career as a Java programmer at Lehman Brothers in 2000. From there, I moved to the banking side in 2005 when there was a huge real estate boom in the US. At first, that seems really exciting. They give you six-figure salary. They take you out to these amazing events. You go to basketball games and they have a private room for you, etc. But I think that the excitement kind of wears off. First thing in the morning, I would come in, I would review the mortgage loans. Then I would just create this financial model and create a presentation for the senior bankers, and then they are the ones that are making decisions. Nobody's telling me, okay, Gina, what do you think about improving the process? No one's asking for my opinion. Basically my focus is not making a mistake when I'm entering information about the loans. Yeah, so September 10th, I was leaving work around 4:30. My manager at the time saw me leaving and he said, "Where are you going? Do you think this is half day?" He was joking. We had a very good relationship. And I told him, it's okay, I'll finish the work tomorrow. And that tomorrow never came because the building collapsed. And at the time I was working on 40th floor. And then I began to have like nightmares about what would have happened to me if I was in that building. I thought about how important life is, and it's all about carpe diem because tomorrow might never come. So in 2008, one of my coworkers decided to quit, and this was like even before the whole bubble popped. I asked him, why do you want to quit? And he said, I'm actually starting a company with one of my co-founders. His name was John Zimmer, and he's the CEO of Lyft. So when John told me about the idea, first I was really shocked because John, to me, was really a quiet guy. He didn't seem like someone who would make that kind of dramatic decision. The second thing was that at the time, Lehman Brothers was still a great job to have. I just didn't understand why he would just give up all that. Later also, I heard at the interview that he used to actually drive to Cornell every weekend, talk to students about trying out his startup. And ultimately, that decision was made when Lehman Brothers went bankrupt because I realized I spent my whole entire 20s creating these toxic securities. And investigators actually called me and said, can you testify at the court for Lehman Brothers creditors? And that's when I realized, okay, I need to do something good for the world. Finally, in 2013, I quit my job. At the time, I was 34, drive across the country to get a job in Silicon Valley. The first thing I did was look up co-working spaces because I knew that that's where I could network and mingle with engineers. So I found this one in Mountain View called Hacker Dojo. I rented a desk there, and literally I took my laptop and I just sat next to engineers and just talked to them. And they told me about this website called AngelList. A lot of the people that want to get into startups, they'll look at job postings there. I honestly thought I would get job at like Facebook or Google, something like that. I looked for a job for about 6 months because a lot of the company, they didn't want to hire someone from Wall Street. or Lehman Brothers. So in a way, my career in Lehman Brothers was almost like a scarlet letter. So literally what I did was on AngelList, I looked up any jobs that are related to finance and technology. Yeah, that's where I found eShares or Carta. eShares, Carta, what they do is they allow companies to issue electronic securities to their investors or their employees in the private market. When Henry told me about what eShares is about, I realized that this is a very big problem and it's an interesting problem to solve. Before Carta, all of this information about the stocks and stock options, that was all taken care of by law firms. Now, law firms are very expensive. Lawyers are expensive. A lot of founders, before they raise money, they would try to do it themselves. So they would keep the information about who owns what in a Excel spreadsheet. There was really no job posting for operations person. There was only a job posting for engineers. But I figured, why not? Let me see if they're looking for someone like me. And then finally, in September, Henry, who was the CEO of Carta, at the time it was called eShares, he said, sorry, we already have an operations manager. And then on Friday, he reached out to me again and he said, actually, our operations manager quit today. And I think it's serendipitous that you reached out to me this week. So are you still interested in the job? And I said, yes. So my very first task was really ordering lunches for everybody. So at the time, I think we were using DoorDash. So figuring out how to use DoorDash to order lunches, I think that was my first task. And it was, again, like not really easy because I had to make sure that I ordered by 10:30, otherwise the lunch would not get there by 12, and then the engineers, they would get cranky. For me, actually, it was really fun because Henry really trusted me from the beginning, and all the things that he wanted me to take care of, even payroll, he just gave me all the access from the beginning. I realized, like, wow, I have all this responsibility and I have to figure it out. For the first time since college, I was actually like using my brain to solve problems, and it was very exciting. I made a lot of mistakes as an operations manager. So one thing I did was I was juggling a lot of things and I sent the wrong file to a customer, and it was a very sensitive file. And this was like around 6 p.m. and Henry, he had already left, and I made this mistake. I said, oh no, what am I gonna do? I've only worked here for a month and now I'm gonna be fired. But I decided I'm gonna call him anyway, and then I told him the situation and he said, oh, that's fine, just apologize. And he said, you know, Gina, you need to have thick skin to work at a startup. It's okay that you're gonna make mistakes, and I totally trust you. And that really changed me, because you're gonna make mistakes. When you have good people that you work with, they're not gonna blame you for it. You're gonna all work together to figure things out. We had a very good team in the very beginning. We had very motivated employees who were not worried about failure and try things out, because no one knows what's the right answer. Around February, March of 2014, we did an interview with TechCrunch, and we told them about how cap tables are broken and we're here to fix that problem and disrupt that space. Around the same time, there was an article about how 409A valuations, which was how stock options are valued, that space is also broken. And once we got that momentum from the TechCrunch article, we said, okay, this is a problem that we can also fix as well. So we started working on that 409A problem and then added that feature in as part of Carta, and that really was the tipping point for us. I also had that sort of imposter syndrome. So I always felt like an imposter. So because, you know, I come from a completely different background, right? I was an investment banker. I had no idea how startups worked. And so as we grew, we got all these amazing people to join. They have a lot of experience either on private markets or startups in general. When I started working with them, again, you know, I just felt like, okay, do I really belong here anymore? Maybe my knowledge is not great. I think, again, you know, you kind of have to have that thick skin, realize that you have that unique insight, and that unique insight is not something that anyone can take from you. And so for me, having that investment banking background, it actually did help me also as I grew with Carta. In New York, like at least like, in Wall Street, people focus on, I think, the present. So like when you get a job offer, right? People don't care about the stock options. They care about how much money that you're getting as of now. But in Silicon Valley, there's more emphasis on the future. When you have your job offer, you need to look at what your salary is going to be and how many stock options you're going to be getting. If you really believe in that company, you really need to exercise those stock options. At Carta, what I saw was a lot of people, when they leave companies, they end up not exercising their stock option and then they regret it. If they don't tell you what percent of the company you're getting, you should also ask that. So when I moved from Wall Street to Silicon Valley, my salary was cut in half. And it was difficult, but if that's again what you want to do, then you do have to make that sacrifice. Since 2013, my stock options basically went up by 200 times. For me, that was the price of the risk that I took. I'm really happy with the risk that I took. And even if you fail, there's going to be so much that you learn from it, and there's so many other opportunities that are going to come to you. In Silicon Valley, a crazy idea is not really a crazy idea. Here, everything is possible. And so people accept that. And that having that underlying assumption is so important. And knowing that people are going to accept you as is. Back when Tesla started, no one believed electronic cars can be possible. Now that I've been in Silicon Valley for 10 plus years, what I realize is that success is something that I define. It's not about money, it's about whether I am doing what I want to do. There are all these like very successful people, Elon Musk or Reid Hoffman, who started like LinkedIn. Why are they still working? Like, why are they still helping startups and investing? And I think it's because like as we get older, we have our own definition of success that has nothing to do with what the society tells us. And it might change every year. It might constantly evolve. But unless we achieve that success, like we're not gonna be happy in life. To me, I'm gonna work till I die, because this is what I enjoy, and what is the meaning of life if you're not doing something that you enjoy. I feel like I was definitely lucky in terms of finding the job at Carta. If I didn't actually decide to quit my job in Wall Street, I wouldn't have found that luck. Right now, using the experience that I had helping out startups, I am trying to start my own business as well, and then continue to just focus primarily on helping startups become the next unicorn. This is again kind of like the next chapter in my life, and maybe I'm not going to be successful doing this. I might have to go back to working for another company or another business. Again, I love the fact that I'm challenging myself to get to that another success. And yeah, that's pretty much it.